Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Rush Adventure for the Nintendo DS. So, last time, we essentially did manage to explore into the second zone in the game, which appears to be Machine Labyrinth. In addition to that, we also did manage to able to obtain certain bronze materials. In addition to that, we also did manage to take on the second boss in the game, known as Ghost Pendulum. And so far, we actually got ourselves about a grand total of, let's just say, in terms of the ranking system, as far as I'm concerned, we actually got ourselves about a grand total of 3 B ranks so far. In addition to that, we also did manage to have ourselves 2 A ranks so far, and only 1 S rank so far. In terms of the forms of the actual rankings, during the forms of this whole entire game so far. So anyways, today for this video is about the fact that we're going to be continuing on, and suffice to say, I think it's about a good opportunity that we can now able to actually start able to explore into the next couple of islands. So because of that though, since currently we still managed to go ourselves with the forms of Wave Cyclone, now you're probably thinking to yourself, is it possible we can able to make our way to the next island with the forms of the Wave Cyclone? Well, we can't go that far, because you see, I have to talk to Tails twice, by the way, in order to able to actually access the actual option to able to build the actual shipcraft. So, for instance, it's about the fact that we actually got quite enough materials, so just in case we can able to actually access to the next ship. So as a result, yeah, we actually got quite enough not only green materials, but as well as bronze materials as well. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that eventually at some point, as you can see, we actually got ourselves some plentiful of rings, as far as you can definitely tell, and something tells me about the fact that we also need to able to collect abundance of rings until for later on though, because for now, we can able to actually access to the next ship, which appears to be none other than Ocean Tornado. So yeah, this thing is quite huge, all things considered, and also, much like the forms of how it does it in both Super Mario Galaxy, as well as Super Mario Galaxy 2, basically though, the more you're trying to able to actually do some more let's just say extensions to the island, basically though is about the fact that the music is actually changed. So as a result, no matter what though, since we can now able to actually access to 2 different vehicle crafts in journey forms within the entire game so far, so naturally speaking, we can able to actually go into Ocean Tornado as for right now. So anyway, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, is the 5th of July today, in some cases in 2024 today, and relatively speaking, is about the fact that we've only got about 21 more days to go, or technically 3 weeks left, I should say. Basically, though, is about the fact the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics is about to start soon. So because of that, though, still I'm basically excited to see about the fact that what events is actually going to handle with. So as far as I'm aware, is that I did manage to able to double check in journey forms of the actual schedules for that particular Paris 2024 Summer Olympics. As far as I'm aware, there's only technically 2 events is going to be taking place just before the opening ceremony starts, for I can gather. Like, for instance, on, I would say on the 24th of July, at some point, that basically, though, they're only going to be showing ourselves 2 events, which are football alongside with the forms of rugby sevens. So of course, much like the forms of how it does it in Rio 2016, alongside with the forms of Tokyo 2020, or technically 2021 I should say, that basically the rugby sevens will make a comeback. So either way though, that's all I can really think about it. So either way though, it is also worth noting for as well, I believe we also got ourselves 3 weeks left until Deadpool and Wolverine is about to be on its way on the big screen. So because of that though, I'm sure about the fact that I'm not exactly sure what the box office records were able to actually bring us into for Deadpool and Wolverine, because as far as I'm aware so far anyway, it looks like that Inside Out 2 is now the #1 ranking so far in terms of the highest grossing films of 2024 so far. So relatively speaking though, time will change, especially concerning for the fact that we still got a couple of films left during the forms of the actual 2024's release, in during the forms of the actual film releases departments, like For instance, is about the fact, as I mentioned this before, that we still have to wait for the sake of the forms of not only Deadpool and Wolverine is about to be releasing, but it's also about the fact that, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, is on its way, and we're still really waiting for the sake of the forms of the actual initial trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie. It will be still on its way, but either way, we'll talk more about that during at some point in the future days to come. So as you can see, we're now able to actually take control of the forms of Ocean Tornado. And basically though, this is also touchscreen by the way, and basically though is about the fact that as you can see, you can able to actually switch between 3 different weapons, ranging from pistols, alongside with bombs, and even flamethrower. So as a result, no matter what though, you can just simply manage to able to tap the actual screen until you're able to actually activate the pistols. By the way, in order to able to change the weapons, by the way, you have to press the corresponding buttons in your D-pad. So, for instance, it's about the fact I'm not exactly sure what the buttons are exactly, because if you couldn't tell already, I did somehow mess this up with this particular journey. Well, that's just clearly because in order to actually access to other islands, you have to be sure you do not want able to go through the shallow end, because as far as I'm aware, we accidentally come across into a shallow bit. So as a result, yeah, we got to try this again, but hopefully though, we'll just try to able to actually avoid a lot of shadow bits, because as far as I'm aware, if you see a bunch of rocks managed able to stick out as much, basically this actually signifies that you somehow come across into shallow bits. So hopefully we'll try this again, hopefully though with not too many issues for this point. Well, mind you about the fact that I'm still pretty much used to with the forms of trying to able to go from island to island for the likes of not only for The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, but as well as the forms of The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, as far as I'm concerned. Although what I found a little bit crazy about this is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of both Sonic Rush Adventure, alongside with the forms of The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, both of these games did came out in exactly the same year, for the sake of 2007, alongside with the forms of some other games as well, ranging from Super Mario Galaxy, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Mario Party 8 for the Wii, as well as the forms of some other stuff here and there as well, which I could probably think about on top of my head. Oh, there was also Mario Party DS as well, but that's as far as I can try to able to think about it, alongside with the forms of certain movies as well, ranging from Ratatouille, The Simpsons movie, etc, etc. So yeah, that's as far as I can try to able to explain about the forms of certain releases in 2007 between both games and films alike. So anyway, let's get back into the forms of the other topics at this point. Actually, before I get into the forms of some more details about the forms of what has been going on recently, somehow we've come to a halt, apparently, and as a result, something tells me about the fact that there might be a stranger that somehow showed up. So either way though, let's just go ahead and check this guy out. So either way though, just for plot significance, so every time whenever we do manage to explore onto certain islands, and who the heck is up with this guy? So as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that he looks a bit more, well, it's hard for me to explain, because I know for a fact that, like I said before, it's been a very long time since I actually have last played this game for sure, since my original cartridge version, so at least as far as what Sonic did told me something, that we somehow managed to have this game since 2007, alongside with the forms of Yoshi's Island DS, and among all others. So anyway, so it looks like we've met up with Johnny of all things, so yeah, here's Johnny. I have no idea why I somehow referenced that particular line for the sake of The Shining. So, anyways, and I believe something tells me is about the fact that, do you guys even remember during the forms of video about the fact that there was Chaos Emeralds in Sonic Rush? Well, in order to actually get the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic Rush is that you have to find these special generators in each and every single levels as Sonic only, whilst unlike Blaze the Cat, can able to actually get the Soul Emeralds in during the forms of the actual story progression. In here though, I believe in order to get the Chaos Emeralds this time around though, for the sake of the forms of this game in particular, although I'll talk more about that if we somehow manage to go for a lot of in-game dialogue first. So either way though, now I believe something tells me is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of certain progression onwards, that basically though I don't think it's possible we can able to actually just get into the third zone for quite a while, because we have to go through 2 different things. So either way though, let's talk about the forms of some other stuff worth noting for, and that's what appears to be the battle races, as you can see. And basically though, we always have to ride on one of those specific watercrafts in particular, which appears to be, of course, Wave Cyclone. So basically though, as you can see on the top screen right here, we can able to actually guarantee to get one of the first of the Chaos Emeralds we can able to obtain. So these battle races are basically, it's kind of like the exact same system as the forms of how it does it on the forms of in a regular Wave Cyclone segments. Except the fact that obviously though we can able to race against with Johnny, and as a result, in order to able to actually get the Chaos Emerald, obviously you have to come in first place, because otherwise if you lose the race, I believe you might have an option to able to try again or something. Well, mind you about the fact I haven't exactly looked upon this for quite some time, but obviously though the first race is pretty self-explanatory. Basically though it's about the fact that, as you can tell, you have to boost wisely though, by the way, in order to able to win these kinds of races like this. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that yeah, this battle race is really easy. Although eventually later on though, it gets a little bit more difficult, which you'll find out and join at some point in the later videos to come. So there we go. So this means we've actually got ourselves the first Chaos Emerald in the whole entire game so far. And just like the forms of how it does it in Sonic Rush, obviously though, the first Chaos Emerald color we've somehow obtained is of course red, and vice versa when it comes to likely, I'm guessing, blue, yellow, green, grey, light blue, and of course the purple emerald is obviously the last one. Although unlike in Sonic Colors on the DS, basically though it's about the fact that the color order is a little bit different. So, but then again though, we'll get some more details about the forms of Sonic Colors on the DS at some point in the future. So, anyway, so we've now made our way to this particular small island right here. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and land here. So just to ensure for the fact that every once in a while though, there's going to be even more levels that we can able to explore into, thanks to the forms of the hidden islands. So for instance, this is the first hidden island we can able to go into, and unlike the forms of how it does it on the regular levels, as far as I'm aware, that we don't start things off as in the forms of how it does it for the fact that every time when you start into the actual newer levels, basically though, you have to able to do a bit of a timing boost, so just in case you can able to actually get yourselves a nice little head start, and as a result you can able to actually guarantee to able to hop into the spring and jump into the level in the process. In here though, these levels are basically bite-sized levels, so as a result we can easily manage to guarantee to complete certain stages with a total breeze. So either way though, let's see what rank I got. Oh, of course I've got a rank, so oh well, no big deal, but at the very least we can able to claim ourselves the not only the blue material, but as well as the iron material as well. So it's been a very long while since we've actually somehow managed to collect more of these materials since the tutorial segment somewhere in Whale Point. So at least whatever I did somehow managed to figure that out though. So, but anyway, so yeah, let's talk about the forms of how the fact that you know about the fact as far as with Sonic, technically already mentioned about this briefly during the forms of in Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric Let's Play, that yes indeed, that recently Sonic Dream Team did somehow receive the third content update, which as a result, it did somehow manage to contain quite a number of things here and there. But let's just say it's probably best if we let Sonic or Amy will both mention more about that particular topic if they somehow coming back onto Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric during at some point until next Tuesday as well as next Thursday, because it looks like about the fact that they are getting very very close towards the end of that particular worst Sonic games ever made, basically. So because of that though, yeah, you probably get the idea what I mean. So anyway, so once you do manage to able to complete Hidden Island 1, it looks like we can able to actually access to yet another island. Except this time, it might actually lead us to the next zone. So yeah, this will be interesting. Especially concerning for the fact that, well, obviously though, Marina Raccoon has been an idiot, and as a result she did somehow accidentally activate something. So either way though, gee, no wonder why a lot of people seem to despise her so much, especially concerning for the fact that, well, you probably get the idea of how the fact that a lot of Sonic fans usually despise Marina Raccoon so much. So either way though, enough about that particular rant from earlier. So anyway, yeah, it looks like that Sonic warns Marina Raccoon not to run off again, because after the events of not only Plant Kingdom, but as well as Machine Labyrinth, obviously though is about the fact that we always have to make sure that she needs to be stay safe and all that stuff. So either way though, despite, you know what I mean, she's been bossy every single time, and as a result, yeah, you can definitely get the idea how I I just can't stand her so much. So that's as far as I was expecting. So anyway though, so it may look like about the fact that, well, oh jeez, what's your language there, Marina Raccoon? Yeah, much like the forms of how it does it for Toadsworth from the likes of in Mario Party 7, that Marina Raccoon did actually say that bad language, which appears to be buggers. So, no wonder why, in the UK version of this particular rating board of Sonic Rush Adventure, it was originally going to be 3+, but actually as it turns out, they somehow brings us into 12+ instead, which as a result, that was originally going to be planned for Mario Party 7's age rating system for the UK version, but actually as it turns out is about the fact that I honestly have no words to say about this, especially concerning for the fact that, well, don't get me wrong, sometimes I managed to able to swear quite a few times, but no one knows often anymore. But that's just clearly because no matter what though, is about the fact that sometimes though, I wasn't thinking straight when it comes to likely talking about certain stuff. So anyways, let's move on to the next zone in Sonic Rush Adventure, and that's what appears to be Coral Cave. So basically though, is about the fact that we can able to actually explore into certain segments that usually not only involves around underwater, but it's also about the fact that this place is amazing, especially concerning for the fact that obviously though we're going to be exploring into the caves, usually it's filled to the brim with a lot of coral reefs, etc, etc. Although this is where the point about the fact that sometimes about the fact that the later levels will now start able to introduce to ourselves some occasional bottomless pits here and there, which you always have to watch out for. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that you have to watch out for not only bottomless pits, but it's also some enemies that might throw you off most of your time. So, at least thankfully though, is about the fact that we can grind as many of those extra lives as we could, not only for certain one-up item boxes, but it's also about the fact that we can able to actually get a bunch of rings, if we're assuming enough about the fact that we do need some shields for time to time. Like for instance, we actually got ourselves the electric shield, which once again allows you to able to track rings to you. So naturally speaking though, that would be a pretty handy shield to have, especially concerning for the fact you really don't want to lose a bunch of rings, mind you, which is especially noticeable if you really want to guarantee to get yourselves the best ranks by far. And god, those little bats are pretty irritating, but thankfully though, about the fact that this level's not too bad, all things considered, especially unlike the forms of how it does it on the later zones coming up. Then obviously though, is about the fact that it'll just fill to the brim with a lot of like some bit of trial and error, and on top of all that stuff though, they might bring us a lot of bottomless pits from time to time. So either way though, you'll see why into whatever we get to at some point, probably later on in this month in particular. So either way though, let's see how well I did on Act 1 of Coral Cave. Oh wow, that was miserable. We actually got ourselves the first C rank on this whole entire run, which obviously it only gives me 1 red material, so that's a bit of a bummer though. But hopefully things get a little bit better if we get on to Act 2 right here. Then obviously though, it won't give me that much trouble, because I will admit though right away, I still need to able to memorize the actual level design in this game sometimes, because like I said before, it's been a very long time since I actually have last experienced this game. Since fundamentally speaking though, the last time I actually did manage to play this game actually is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of how the fact that I did manage to able to test out with my Nintendo DSi XL back in 2019, so it's roughly about 5 years ago roughly. So anyway, the next thing I want to point out as well is about the fact that what I've actually found is a little bit fascinating in regards to the forms of the upcoming Super Mario Party Jamboree that's going to be on its way. That apparently though, the game's going to take place somewhere in the island resort, something very similar to the forms of how it does it in well, let's just say Mario Party Island Tour, because obviously that game also utilizes islands to able to actually go from place to place or something like that. Although, unlike in Mario Party Island Tour, that basically though is about the fact that I think something tells me is about the fact that according to the informs of what Kamek did somehow mentions, during the informs of the actual announcement trailer of Super Mario Party Jamboree, they did mention this is about the fact that it's going to be not only bigger, but it's also going to be bolder Mario Party. So this means it's going to be a lot more expansive in comparison to the forms of how it does on the previous Mario Party games being developed by ND Cube. So yeah, that honestly got me excited for it, especially considering for the fact that when it comes to looking upon the actual character roster, so far we actually got ourselves a grand total of 21 playable characters so far. So naturally speaking, I was about the fact that it did certainly trumps the actual amount of characters from not just by the forms of Mario Party the top 100, as well as Mario Party Superstars, even with Super Mario Party. So as a result, maybe more playable characters might eventually be revealed later down the road. So either way though, oh geez, we ended up now in the bottom screen, so this means we have to be able to catch a ride on a minecart. It kind of reminds me of the forms of the actual Donkey Kong Country vibes almost, except the fact that obviously though, those sections are in 3D, so no matter what though, we have to dodge a lot of hazards here and there. Even though sometimes though, I will admit though right away, it's about the fact that the actual jumping timing is a bit weird sometimes, but regardless of everything else though, we made our way towards the end of Act 2 of Coral Cave. So, pretty swell I have to say, despite the fact that again, I have to admit it though right away, I do need some bit of practice when it comes to forms of certain levels sometimes, and hopefully exponentially though, I can able to actually grind as many of those materials off screen, so... I wonder what's up with this guy that I was actually planning for, I wonder. And it kind of reminds me of someone based off from Pokemon Ranger movie, which appears to be Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. Yeah, this guy reminds me of so much of Phantom from Pokemon the Movie 9. Except the fact that obviously he's a lot more robotic instead of the forms of the regular person. So either way, this is where we get ourselves the introduction to the new antagonist in this game. And that's what appears to be by the forms of Captain Whisker. So as a result, it makes it a little bit more obvious because obviously it's almost like a pirate motif or something like that. So anyway, back into what I was saying about the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree for a moment. As far as I'm aware, I'm still very glad about the fact that not only Toad is going to make its comeback when it comes to playable characters department since Mario Party Star Rush, but the same applies with Toadette as well, because obviously that was about the fact that I'm super happy about the fact that those two are now playable again after the events of Mario Party Star Rush, because unlike the top 100, even with Super Mario Party back in 2018, alongside with Mario Party Superstars, that both of those characters were not playable because they are act out as guides for certain aspects, ranging from the star locations and etc, etc. So, ooh, what a ownage for Marina Raccoon, even though she did manage able to regain her composure or something. So either way though, but it looks like for whatever reason she wants more fun after getting ownage by Captain Whisker, but obviously though it's about the fact that obviously who cares about Marina Raccoon because she's just so annoying, which fundamentally speaking I was just about the fact I still cannot stand her. Oh well, what a coincidence, we somehow managed able to meet up with Blaze the Cat again, although I'm sure we'll talk more about that during later on, because relatively speaking I was about the fact that since we've already did manage to complete Act 2 of Coral Cave, this means it's now boss time, so it looks like that Captain Whiskers is going to try to summon the next boss, so as a result he's probably going to able to summon Kraken. So, yeah, he summons the Kraken. So, yeah, that's what I can really say about it. So this means we now moved on to the next boss in the game, known as Ghost Kraken. So either way though, this boss is pretty simple, even though much like the forms of how it does it on the first boss in the game. Basically though, this boss will heavily utilize this with 2 screens. So I believe at the start of a fight, we obviously have to start things off on the top screen. And basically though, in order to able to deal the amount of damage to Ghost Kraken, basically though, as you can see, that his tentacle does have the actual weak spot. So relatively speaking though, we need to keep an eye on with the forms of the glowing weak spot, so that way it deals the amount of damage to him. So because of that though, if you try to attack the regular tentacle, basically though, is about the fact that it does not count as a hit. So either way, and it looks like we're now going to underwater, apparently speaking, and as a result we got able to just try able to actually keep on hitting his tentacle, even though sometimes I will admit though right away my timing is a little bit off. But regardless of everything else though, this boss is pretty simple, and just like the forms of how it does it for Ghost Rex, it is definitely possible you can able to actually jump onto this particular weak spot a couple of times to act out as like a combo. So either way though, thankfully though about the fact that, well, you know, as soon as we're able to done with this particular part, we can now go back up to the surface. And what I found a little bit interesting is that much like the forms of how it does it in Labyrinth Zone boss, in 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, basically though we get infinite amount of air if you go into underwater, which I think is actually quite cool. So anyway, oh yeah, every once in a while though is about the fact that the Ghost Kraken decides to able to spit out black ink on you, because if you get stunts like that, then obviously though you won't be able to move in time. So either way though, you still have to watch out for it. So but yeah, nothing else I can really say about it. I would have liked able to discuss more details about the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree when it comes to the forms the entire character roster has been brought ourselves into. But as I say, we'll have to wait until at some point, probably in tomorrow. So anyway, there goes the Ghost Kraken. So, despite the fact I got hit a couple of times, but regardless of everything else though, I don't think it's possible for me to able to actually get myself the glorious S rank or anything else like that. So, instead, I'll take a B, so that'll be okay for me. So, as a result, I think so far we somehow obtained about a grand total of 6 red materials so far, so I might be okay with this. So, despite the fact that if I didn't get enough materials later down the road, luckily though I can able to actually grind as many of those materials as much as I could off screen or something. Well, mind you about the fact that, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens, and during at some point in a later progressioning in this game in particular. Also, I just realized about the fact that unlike in the original Sonic Rush, that basically though Cream was actually supporting Blaze the Cat. In here though, I don't think it's possible that Cream the Rabbit will not return in this game, which as far as I'm concerned, because I think something tells me we ended up in Blaze's homeworld. So yeah, apparently though, you remember how the fact that in the opening cutscene that we've got sucked up in the forms of that particular storm tornado? Well, that pretty much leads us into Blaze's homeworld. So this means about the fact that the time paradox thing might get screwed up again, right? Well, it doesn't look like it so far, especially that unlike the forms of how it does it on Sonic Rush, that the space-time continuum gets a lot more expanded. So as a result, I don't think it's possible we can able to come across the exact same issue again. So it looks like we are basically stuck in the forms of Blaze's homeworld. So, and what's nice about this is about the fact that obviously though it's nice to see Blaze the Cat again. Although mind you about the fact it's pretty weird that she appears in later on throughout the whole game, unlike the forms of how it does it when you first completed Leaf Storm first on Sonic Rush, and then you were able to actually not only meet up with Blaze for the first time, but it's also about the fact that you can able to actually play as Blaze. So, and what I thought was a little bit interesting is that unlike the forms of how it does it in Sonic Rush, that you do have to go through 2 separate playthroughs. In here though, much like the forms of how it does it in Super Mario Galaxy 2 or something, basically though we can actually have the option to able to select either Sonic or Blaze, at least depending on what levels you can able to actually explore into. So yeah, that's actually pretty awesome to me, especially concerning for the fact that, well, then again, we'll talk more about that during at some point in the later days to come. So, anyway, it's also worth noting for is about the fact that yes, I unfortunately going back onto Mario Kart Tour again, but at the very least though, so far I've somehow managed to got myself 194 drivers so far. In addition to that, I also got myself 171 carts so far, and finally 112 gliders so far in terms of Mario Kart Tour. So as a result, I'm getting very close towards the 200 number mark in regards to the forms of how many drivers I can able to obtain in that game. Despite the fact that, relatively speaking, at this point in time, I'm most likely going to be focusing on obtaining certain Mii racing suits from now on, because as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that thanks to the forms of the 30% off, this means I can able to actually unlock certain Mii racing suits during at some point in the future reruns for certain tours. Well, mind you, we still have no idea when does the actual service is about to shut down for that particular Mario Kart Tour game as a result. Although there's also another thing I want to point out as well, out of nowhere, that the Luigi's Mansion 2 HD event has already been happened on Super Mario Run. So as a result, so far I've only got one statue so far, and hopefully I'll get the other two statues possibly later down the road, if assuming about the fact that the mission objectives are, for the most part, it's quite easy, but some of them are actually really hard. Like, you have to collect a certain amount of coins for certain stages, which, as a result, I think World 1-3 honestly give me a hard time on it. Well, that's just clearly because it's been a very long while since I actually have last played Super Mario Run. But either way though, that'll be a topic for a later time, because for now, we made our way back into the forms of Southern Island to able to actually have a chat on something, and it looks like we do need to able to deal with yet another construction we need to able to work on, and that's what appears to be the radio tower. So hopefully we'll try to able to sort that out if we somehow manage to able to get onto the next island, I'm assuming. So either way though, because trust me, what I'm saying is about the fact that this game is going to be much longer than the forms of how it does it on Sonic Rush 1. So I honestly don't mind about it, especially concerning for the fact that after all, we're still on the summer season after all. Even though it's a shame about the fact that the weather condition in the UK right now, it still feels a bit miserable. So because of that though, I mean, for love of God, we do need sunny weathers again. So anyways, now we're able to actually access to not only play as Sonic, but we can now play as Blaze. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. So either way though, suffice to say for this point guys, is that we're at the endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Rush Adventure. Is that we need to construct the forms of the radio tower, and after that we can now able to actually go ahead and play as Blaze, and exponentially we can able to move on to the next zone. So yeah, that should be interesting. So I'll see you guys until on Monday. Later fellas.